Welcome back to another video, and today we got our college football preseason top 25 rankings. Now, I want to make this clear right out the gate. These are not projections. These are not predictions on how each team will finish at the end of the season, because we've done all the predictions. We did every single Power 4 conference, and then yesterday we did our college football playoff prediction. This is based off right now how I'd rank these teams roster-wise, just looking at everything. We're just taking an inventory on all these teams right now, and obviously these are subject to change. We're going to be doing these every single week. Maybe not next week, just because the only team playing here is Florida State. But we'll see. But before we get into the video, make sure you go down there. There's a bunch of links in the description. X, Twitter. TikTok, Twitch, Discord. Make sure you join that. Follow those, all those. And if you're new around here, we do college basketball, NBA, NFL, and MLB. So if you're interested in any of that, make sure you go and subscribe to the channel if you're new. With all that being said, though, let's just jump right in to our first team. We got the USC Trojans here at number 25. Now, when looking at USC, obviously there's a question mark at quarterback Miller Moss. How good will he be? And I think under Lincoln Riley, I think he'll be okay. I definitely think he'll be good. He's not going to be, a Caleb Williams, a Kyler Murray, guys that Lincoln Riley's had in the past. But I think he'll be serviceable. I think he'll be very solid. I definitely think he'll get better as the season goes on. They bring back Zachariah Branch, very talented receiver. They got a group of corners, John Humphrey and DeCarlos Nicholson. They got a pretty strong offensive line to protect Miller Moss. They got a lot of talent. Now defensively, I do worry. They still have Bear Alexander, but last season obviously the defense was a huge problem, and I don't think it'll be as bad as it was last year. I definitely do think it'll be better than it was last year, but how good will it be? I don't think it'll be good. So I got USC at 25 here. Looking at our next team at 24. We got the Nebraska Cornhuskers. Now, they're not ranked in the AP poll. This is the only team that I don't have ranked, or that the AP poll doesn't have ranked that I do. When looking at Nebraska, honestly, it's a little bit similar to USC situation where it depends on the quarterback play. Because if Dylan Raiola is as good as everyone says he's going to be, this team can win 9, 10, 11 games, honestly. I mean, I wouldn't put it past them. Their schedule's not hard. They play Ohio State, and honestly, I think every other game, it's probably winnable for them. So don't be shocked if they go into the Ohio State game 7-0. I think I predicted them going 9-3 or 10-2 maybe. So I definitely am high on them. Yeah, but like I said, Dylan Raiola, there's a reason he's starting as a freshman, man. He is that good. He is a very talented player, and they bring back a whole lot of production from last year. I think Matt Rule, we've seen Matt Rule in year 2. Just take a step forward with every program he's been in. We saw it with Baylor. They won like 2 games his first year. The next season they won 6. I definitely do trust Matt Rule here. And I think Nebraska is in for a really good season. I got them here at 24 right now. But moving on to our next team, number 23, the Iowa Hawkeyes. I do think they deserve to be 23 instead of 25 in the AP poll. You could honestly argue even a little bit higher. When looking at this team, they bring back a lot of the guys from last year, and last year they made the Big Ten championship game. I think they went 10-2 in the regular season. Yeah, the defense is going to be insane once again. Xavier Nwamka at safety, Jay Higgins at linebacker, Sebastian Castro at safety, Nick Jackson coming off the edge. They're going to be a very good team. How good is Cade McNamara going to be? That's a good question. I'm not sure. They don't really have much at the skill positions, if we're being honest. LaShawn Williams at running back is solid, but nothing crazy. And receiving-wise, they just are empty. So Iowa's interesting. I think it's going to be another typical Iowa season we see from them. With strong defense, but not anything. I think the offense will be a little bit better than it was last season. I don't think it will be that bad, but if the offense is top 75, top 50, Iowa could win 11 games. I mean, they could be a playoff team. I had them going 10-2, and I consider them for the playoff in my prediction. So I'm pretty high on the Hawkeyes here. But looking at our next team, Lance Leipold has just taken this program and just rejuvenated it. I mean, the fact that Kansas is ranked in the AP top 25 for football preseason is just ridiculous. And I mean, it's well deserved though. You know, look at this roster top to bottom. Jalen Daniels at QB is one of the best QBs in the country if healthy. That's a big if because we haven't really seen him be healthy. But looking at the team, man, Kobe Bryant, I love the guy. He's very physical corner. Devin Neal, one of the best backs in the country. I think he's in for a great season. They have Mello Dotson on the other side at corner. Marvin Grant at safety. They got a pretty solid O-line here too. Solid receiving core, nothing crazy. I'm very high on Kansas. I said this in the Big 12 prediction. If Jalen Daniels stays healthy, they can win the Big 12. I wouldn't be shocked. I'm pretty sure I said if Jalen Daniels plays every game this season, they will win the Big 12. That's how much I like this roster. But really, it just all depends on the quarterback play. But as of right now, he's healthy. So that's why I have him ranked here at 22. Moving on to our next team, though, we're going to look at another Big 12 team. And that's going to be the Arizona Wildcats. Now, when looking at Arizona, Noah Fafita's back, along with Tetero McMillan. I'm sorry if I'm not good at pronouncing names, but I mean these two guys have played together since youth football. The chemistry there is ridiculous. Takario Davis at corner, he's the guy to look out for. Yeah, this team's going to be very solid. I do worry how they will adapt to the Big 12 play because the Big 12 is a lot more defense and run game. Arizona's going to want to air the ball out a lot. Fafita's he's capable of doing so. I mean, he's one of the best quarterbacks in this league. So Arizona's going to have a very good season. Again, these aren't predictions. As of right now, I'd put them at 21. Yeah, we're going to have – these videos are going to be longer as the season gets on, just goes on because we'll recap the previous game, looking at the upcoming games. But heading into week 0, there's not really any games. There is one game we can predict soon, so that will be interesting. But looking at our next team here, we got the Aggies, Texas A&M at 20. Now, I love the move that they get rid of Jimbo Fisher. He definitely was not the answer. Moving on to their next guy, Mike Elko. I like that hire. He got Duke. He made Duke a pretty good team last year, so I really like this hire for the Aggies. It's the same story every year, though. It's the same story this year. They have all the talent in the world to do it, but can they put it together? I think they will somewhat. I don't think they're going to go 11-1 and make the playoffs. I think I had them going 9-3. Connor Weigman at QB, he was injured last season a lot. I think he'll be pretty solid. Ruben Owens and Le'Veon Moss at running backs. That's a pretty solid 1-2 punch right there. Nick Scorton coming off the edge. They have a pretty solid offensive and defensive line. But yeah, can they put it together? That's just going to be the question. I think they will under their new coach. I think that's definitely a coaching issue. Because they're recruiting very well. So I'm pretty high in the Aggies. The Aggies could finish higher than this when it's all said and done. They could be just outside the top 10. I wouldn't be surprised. They're a very good team. Very capable of moving up. But looking at our next team here, we got the Sooners. So I'm going to say the exact opposite for Oklahoma. I love this roster. I think Jackson Arnold, honestly, I saw Joel Klatt say this, and I actually agree. Dylan Gabriel, the much better player than Jackson Arnold. Nobody's going to question that, right? But I do believe Arnold does fit Oklahoma and what they're trying to do more than Dylan Gabriel. Dylan Gabriel wants to spread the ball around. He wants to feed everyone. And at Oregon, that's going to work because Oregon has just a plethora of talent. But Jackson Arnold, he's looking to throw it downfield. He's looking to air it out. And I actually do really like that for Oklahoma. They got some pretty solid receivers, Deion Burks, Nick Anderson. Defensively, I think they'll be very solid. Billy Bowman at safety, um, Woody Washington at corner, Gavin Sawchuk at running back is an X factor. He is. I think he'll be having a very good season. Um, I actually really like this Oklahoma team. You can make an argument that they could be higher. I wouldn't blame you. Um, but I will say, with the amount of tough teams they have in their schedule, I wouldn't be shocked if they don't finish ranked this by the end of the season. I had them going 6-6, which is crazy because this team is very good. Definitely a top 25 team. But just looking at the schedule, man, that's just brutal. So that's unlucky, but that is what I am thinking right now on the Sooners. But looking at our next team here, we got the Kansas State Wildcats. Very intrigued to see how Avery Johnson plays. No more Will Howard. I do like that change there, giving the young guy the role. And he definitely has the higher ceiling than Will Howard ever did. As a passer, as a runner. So I like that. They bring in Dylan Edwards from Colorado. I love that. He kind of fits the Kansas State mold. He reminds me of Deuce Vaughn a lot. So I think he'll have a lot of success at Kansas State. Catching it out of the backfield, running it out of the backfield. They also have DJ Giddens. I'm pretty sure he had over 1,000 rushing yards last year. So a really nice 1-2 punch there. Defensively, they got some guys too. So I really like this Kansas State team. I got them ranked here at 18. But looking at our next team, the Oklahoma State Cowboys. I have them ranked ahead of Kansas State. Now, like I said, these aren't predictions. These are just based off right now. And right now, I do believe Oklahoma State is roster-wise and all things considered better than Kansas State. I do have Kansas State finishing ahead of Oklahoma State in the Big 12 standings in my predictions. But like I said, as of right now, I mean, they have the best running back in the country in Ollie Gordon. Now, it all really does rely on how good can they. What's their ceiling? That's a question. I think their ceiling's a CFP team, but really just depends on how Alan Bowman plays. Because if he's as good as he was last year, I don't think that's going to cut it. He's got to cut the turnovers down a little bit. Nick Martin at linebackers, I got to know. Brennan Presley is a very talented receiver. Oklahoma State's got some talent. I mean, they're a really good team. But like I said, really just depends on that quarterback play. How good can Alan Bowman be? And we're going to find out. I have them ranked at 17 right now. They could definitely move up. They could also move down. So we're going to see as the season goes on. Looking at our next team, it's going to be the Clemson Tigers. Now, I mean, what a fall from glory, but realistically, I mean, they were ranked I believe they were ranked number 1 every season for 6 straight seasons. Not consecutively, but, they reached number 1 in the AP poll 6 consecutive seasons. That's ridiculous. Good on Dabo Swinney. But you see this a lot. When programs start to die, it's because they don't adapt. We saw it with Miami after the early 2000s. We've seen it with Michigan. Now Michigan recently has turned that around. We saw that with Florida State. We saw that with USC, Nebraska. So we've seen this before. And I don't think Clemson's going to be bad at all. Sorry if that came off negative. I'm just saying. I mean, they were at the top of the world for 6 straight seasons, so you do got to give him a break. But I will say, Swinney, I've never been a fan of his, but you got to use the transfer portal, man. You just have to. But looking at this roster, Barrett Carter's a guy to know, outside linebacker. He's going to be Peter Woods at D tackle is another guy. So I think their defense will be actually pretty solid. A lot of the teams in this range really just comes down to quarterback play. How good is the quarterback going to be? Cade Klubnik. I'm not sure. He's shown flashes. Can he put it all together though? That's a great question. We'll see. I'm a little worried. Clemson, they have a pretty unproven receiving core. A lot of their guys are young, so definitely interested to see how those guys do. Phil Maffa, still there at running back, so yeah, the receiving core does interest me a little. I'm actually excited to see how the young guys do because they're very unproven. So I have Clemson here at 16, but moving into the top 15, we got Tennessee. So Nico Iamaleava. Iam, sorry, I'm gonna try not to butcher this last name. Iamaleava. That is how you say it. It's hard to say. So yeah, he's very exciting. He's going to be a very exciting player this season. Um, and I said this wasn't projecting. I didn't want it to be predictions. I don't think this is. If I'm not expecting him to go out there and be the 10 out of 10 version of himself, full potential right away. Even if he's 7 out of 10, 8 out of 10 of what he can be, I think this is fair for Tennessee. This is a very talented roster. Dylan Sampson at running back, Squirrel Wright and Brew McCoy at receivers. James Pierce Jr., arguably the best player in the country. They have a pretty solid offensive line. Omari Thomas at D tackle. This is a very talented roster. The offense is going to be amazing. I think the defense will be pretty good. I'm very high in Tennessee. I think they're in for a very good season, led by Nico, and I'm interested to see how he plays. I'm excited. It's an exciting time of the season. But moving on, at 14 we got LSU. Now LSU, again, similar to a lot of these teams. How will the quarterback play? Grant Newsmeyer. How will he do? He's been behind Jaden Daniels for a couple years. He's gotten used to the system. So I do like that. He's been there for a while. This team is very talented. I think, C.J. Daniels still there at receiver. Now, obviously, the offense is going to take some step backs when you lose first-round quarterback, a Heisman winner, and then 2 first-round receivers. Obviously, it's going to take a step back, right? But they have one of the best offensive line units in the country. Defensively, they got some guys, Harold Perkins, and offensively still, I think Kyron Lacey's in for a breakout year at receiver. C.J. Daniels, he's going to be, he was at Liberty, 1,000-yard receiver at Liberty. I think he'll be a great addition here to the team. I'm pretty high on LSU. I think they, offensive line, like I said, one of the best in the country, if not the best. Will Campbell, one of the best players in the country at left tackle. Definitely an interesting team. Definitely want to see them play some football. But looking at our next team, another SEC team, we got the Missouri Tigers. So obviously Brady Cook is back at QB. Luther Burden comes back at receiver. One of the best, probably the best receiver in the country. One of the best players in the country. This team went 10-2 last year, and they bring back a whole lot of their guys. I think they're in for a very good season. They have a very easy schedule. I think 11. Really their only tough game is against Alabama, and I'm pretty sure they have it at home. So no, never mind. I think it is at Alabama. But even then, 11-1 SEC team. If they win all the games they should, they're going to get into the playoffs. I think I'm pretty sure I had them going 11-1, and I had them in the playoffs. So yeah, they have a very workable schedule. I'm expecting a very good season for the Tigers. I don't see any regression at all. Like I said, this is a very experienced team. A lot of their guys were here when they beat Ohio State last year in a New Year's Six Bowl. So yeah, they're going to be good. I'm pretty high on the Tigers. I think, like I said, with the easy schedule, I think they're in for a very good year. Looking at our next team though. Number 12, the Miami Hurricanes. I think this is. I was pretty. I liked a lot of the AP poll. This was the one though that I feel like they whiffed on. Miami being at 19, it's a little low. We've seen the Miami hype. I know, we've seen the Miami hype year in and year out. but now they have a quarterback, and that's the difference. We know what Cam Ward is. We know how good he is. We know how talented he is. He's going to have a whole lot more guys to throw to here at Miami than he ever would at Washington State. The talented there. I mean, Xavier Restrepo at receiver, Damian Martinez at running back, Jacoby George also at receiver. This team is loaded. They have a very, very good offensive line. Defensive line too is just very solid. Their trench play is going to be one of their strengths, at least I believe. And talent-wise, they have a very talented roster. I do believe in Cam Ward. I think he's going to be very, very good. I'll say that at Miami. I think he's going to lead them to having a very good season. I had him making the playoffs in my prediction. So, moving on to our next team, though. Number 11, Florida State. When looking at Florida State, DJU comes in from Oregon State. How will he play? He's not going to be as good as Jordan Travis. I'll tell you that right now. But I don't think Florida State will be as good as they were last year. To be fair, though, last year they went undefeated. Should have been in the playoffs, but they got left out. Patrick Payton off the edge on defense. He's going to be a guy to look out for. They have a very good offensive line unit, very good defensive line. Really just comes down to, they lose a lot, right? They lose Jordan Travis. They lose Keon Coleman. They lose their other receiver. I'm forgetting his name. What's his name? Johnny something like that. Johnny Wilson, maybe? That sounds about right. They lose him. They lost a lot, but I believe in Mike Norvell. He's brought this program back to what it once was. And I think Florida State, I had them winning the ACC, so I'm very high on them. I think they'll beat Georgia Tech in Ireland this weekend, I guess tomorrow. I think they'll win 31-17. I think it'll be a close game at halftime, but I think DJU get into the rhythm. He'll get into the rhythm. I think he'll figure it out in the second half, and I think they'll pull away. Mid to late third quarter. But yeah, it should be a fun one to watch. Really, the only important game, I guess you could say. I'll watch the other ones just because football's back, but you know what I mean. But moving into the top 10, we got our defending national champs here at 10. The Michigan Wolverines. Yeah, people aren't going to like this. People are going to say, I'm biased or whatever. The AP poll has them at 9, so I'm not far off. Again, the quarterback position is just a huge question mark here. We've seen Alex Orji. He's thrown one pass his whole college career. I'm not sure how that will translate. Now, I know the talent is they lose so much, but yet, some of their players, they lose a whole lot. J.J. McCarthy, Blake Corum, Roman Wilson. Ton of guys on defense. They still have Will Johnson, though. He's one of the best players in the country, along with Mason Graham. Those two, corner and D tackle, respectively. Those are two of the best players in the country. They have the best tight end in the country, Colston Loveland. Kenneth Grant at D tackle. They have one of the best D-lines, if not probably the best D-line in the country. Donovan Edwards is a top 5 running back in the country. Rod Moore, one of the best safeties in the country. Just going down the list, they still have a lot of talent. They're still going to be very good. Now, I don't think they're going to win it all this season like they did last year. The big thing for me is how will Alex Orji play and how will Sharon Moore coach, because that's another loss. They lose Jim Harbaugh, and I feel like people are overlooking that because he was a huge part of it. Now, we'll see what happens with all the cheating scandal. Not going to say much about it. If they cheated, they should get punished. I feel like that's obvious to say. It's up to them to decide how. I'm not saying, their title should be vacated or whatever some people are saying. Obviously, as an Ohio State fan, I would love if that were the case, but, it's not my decision to make. Ultimately, moving on to our next team at number 9, I have the Utah Utes. I'm ranked inside the top 10. I think 12 is a little bit low for the Utes. I think they're definitely a top 10 team. Kyle Whittingham, one of the best coaches in the country. Uh, Brant Keith at tight end, Cam Rising at quarterback. They both come back. People don't like to talk about this, but Keith was ahead of Kincaid in the depth chart before he got injured. And Kincaid was a first round pick, so that's something. Yeah, Brant Keith, one of the best tight ends in the country. Cam Rising, experience. He's in like his 7th year. Dorian Singer at receiver. This team's got a whole lot of guys, and I trust Kyle Whittingham with my life that he'll have a good season. He is, like I said, one of the best coaches in the game right now. Number 8, we got Notre Dame. Notre Dame's the one weird team where I can't put their conference standings, so I just put their schedule. Looks a little goofy, but you know, this is the one team I really haven't talked about a lot, because they're not in a Power Four conference. Obviously, they're the one good team that's independent. Benjamin Morrison at corner, one of the best corners. Xavier Watts, one of the best safeties in the country. Mitchell Evans is a very good tight end. At quarterback, they bring in Riley Leonard from Duke. I'm interested to see how he'll adjust. I think Notre Dame could definitely be a playoff team. I didn't have them in the playoffs because I'm not sure how the committee will respond because this schedule is just a cakewalk. If they lose 2 games, I don't think they get in. If they lose 1 game, it's going to be close. I had them going 11-1 and missing the playoffs, so that's interesting. That's just what I had, but yeah, Notre Dame's going to be a team to watch this season for sure. Number 7, I have the Nittany Lions. Yeah, I feel like I don't know. I feel like I've been saying this a lot, but how good can Drew Aller be? Because if he is what some people say he is, and if he is his full potential, Penn State could win the Big Ten. They have one of the best D lines in the country, with Abdul Carter and Danny Dennis Sutton on the other side. They have one of the best running back rooms in the country with Nick Singleton and Katron Allen. Kevin Winston Jr. at safety. He is an amazing player. Kobe King at linebacker. They have a very good offensive and defensive line. Some of the best trench play in the country. I think James Franklin will make the playoffs this year. I have him ranked at 7. Looking at our next team, though, moving into really the elite territory here. Ole Miss at 6. I said this in my SEC preview 2 days ago. I think this is the best team Lane Kiffin has ever had. Jackson Dart at quarterback comes back. A receiver, Trey Harris, Antoine Wells Jr., and Jordan Watkins. That is an elite receiving crew there. Defensively, I'm a little worried. Walter Nolan is a guy to know on the defense. He's a D tackle. I think he'll be very good this season. But I am a little bit worried defensively just how good they potentially can be and will be. But offensively, they should have no problems. They should have one of the best offenses in the country. Maybe the best. Moving into the top 5, though, we're going to start the top 5 with the Crimson Tide. I think Kalen DeBoer is in for a very interesting season. When you look at this team, Jalen Milroe's back. They lose Isaiah Bond to Texas, but still a very talented team. Malachi Moore at safety. They have one of the best offensive lines in the country to protect Milroe. I think Milroe will win the Heisman this year. I said that in my SEC preview. Jam Miller at running back. Justice Haynes. That is a nice 1-2 punch there at running back. Jeremy Bernard at receiver. They have all the talent in the world, and I think Kalen DeBoer, one of the best head coaches in the country. I think they're in for we're going to have to watch Alabama because I feel like they're going to I said this yesterday. I had them getting in the playoffs as a 9 seed, and I had them making the semifinals. I had them beating the 1 seed. I had them beating Georgia. I think they're a team that can really, sneak into the playoffs, I guess, and make some real noise. I don't want to say sneak in, but you know what I mean. I mean they're one of the most talented teams. When you just look at a roster perspective, Um, yeah, I have them at 5 right now. Number 4, I have the Texas Longhorns. Quinn Ewers is going to lead this team to another playoff. I'm assuming another playoff season, another playoff berth. They have Kelvin Banks at left tackle. He's one of the best players in the country. Probably the best offensive tackle besides Will Campbell at LSU. Um, Defensively, I do worry they weren't great last year. I think they'll get better. But they bring in Isaiah Bond at receiver. Um, they have C.J. Baxter at running back. Silas Bolden is a guy to know at receiver. Matthew Golden. They're a stacked roster. I think Steve Sarkisian will have a very good season at Texas. Number 3, I have Oregon. I have the Oregon Ducks here at 3. I think Dylan Gabriel definitely could win the Heisman. He's definitely up there. I think Tez Johnson, arguably the best receiver in the country. There's guys like Emeka Ibuka, Luther Burden that I may give the edge to. He's probably not better than Luther Burden, maybe Ibuka. So he's probably a top 3 receiver though. McMillan at Arizona, he's up there. So he is a guy to know. Evan Stewart at receiver as well. Jordan James at running back. This team is loaded. They have unlimited NIL now, which is crazy. Offensive line wise, they have an amazing tackle duo in Josh Connerly Jr. and Johnny Cornelius. Jabbar Muhammad at corner. This is a loaded team. I have them at 3. Number 2, people aren't going to like this. I have Georgia at 2. I think right now, Georgia is the second best team in the country. Now, I had them, like I said, these aren't predictions. These are right now. I think Georgia is the second best team in the country as of right now without watching any games. Obviously, they have, Carson Beck at quarterback. They're going to have an elite offense. They're going to have an elite defense. They're going to be an elite team. And a lot of people think they're going to win it all, and, for good reason. There's a reason the people has them ranked at number 1. The reason I have them ranked at number 2 is because the team at number 1, I believe, when looking at a roster perspective, I think they do have the better roster. I think they have the slight edge. Now, Georgia has, like I said, a lot of guys. Trevor Etienne, they bring in from Florida. Defensively, they're loaded. Offensively, offensive line-wise, every position on the board, they're loaded. But I think the team at number 1, I do believe, is the number 1 team in the country right now, and that is my team, Ohio State. So you could call me biased. I feel like 1 and 2, though, is interchangeable right now for me. They have the best running back room in the country. They have Caleb Downs, who is the best safety in the country, one of the best players in the country, top 5 in my opinion. Ibuka is a top 3 receiver. They have an elite D-line, Tyleek Williams, Jack Sawyer, JTT. Their offensive line is going to be better than it was last year. Last year wasn't great. It was about average. Donovan Jackson at left guard. And they bring in a tackle from Alabama. What is it? I'm forgetting his name. But they brought in somebody from Alabama. I think the offensive line is going to be better. I think Will Howard will be better than Kyle McCord ever was. I think he just gives Ohio State a rushing QB that they haven't had since Fields, really, because Stroud didn't want to run. McCord definitely didn't. I think receiver-wise, they got guys ready to step up. Carnell Tate, I believe, is ready. I think he's in for a very good season. I think Jeremiah Smith is going to be an absolute monster. I know he's a freshman, but still, I think secondary-wise with Denzel Burke, Igmanosin, Lathan Ransom, I think they have one of the best secondaries in the country. I'm telling you, when you look at a roster perspective top to bottom, I think this is the best roster in the country. So I have them ranked at number 1. But let me know what you guys think about that in the comments, and let me know what you think about my rankings as a whole in the comments, what you agree, what you disagree. Let me know. I'd love to respond and debate a little bit. It's always fun to do. As always, if you're new around here, make sure you subscribe to the channel. Turn on the notice to make sure you don't miss whenever we post. Like I said, we do college basketball, college football, NFL, NBA, and MLB. So if you're interested in any of that, go down there, subscribe. Like this video if you enjoyed, and links in the description. Twitter, TikTok, Twitch, Discord. Follow all those. Join those. Be much appreciated. But with all that being said, probably no video tomorrow, just because we made 4 videos back 4 days. So I'm probably going to take the weekend off. But next week, we're going to dive right into NFL content. We're going to give you an MLB video because we haven't in a while. So yeah, a lot to look forward to. Make sure you go on there, subscribe.